Let's Take This Outside with Marianne Iveson, the podcast where she speaks to athletes, outdoor professionals, and scientists about why they connect with nature.
Today we meet Jeff Douglas, a Canmore-based mountain guide who recently completed a 3-year quest to hike every single one of Banff National Park's 2,000 plus kilometers of trails, all in hopes of seeing the park's elusive bison herd. As the owner of Mountain Goat Adventures and a certified guide, Jeff has spent more than 15 years exploring the Bow Valley, Banff, and beyond, turning his passions for the outdoors into a way of life. From long trail runs in remote corners of the Rockies to technical backcountry skiing traverses, Jeff's story is about curiosity, endurance, and what it means to truly know the mountains. Please welcome Jeffrey Douglas. Jeff Douglas, welcome to Let's Take This Outside.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
We just spent about 10 minutes talking about people we know mutually. We talked about our love of Banff and the area and, issues happening like in nature and visiting. Anyway, we're going to talk about it coming up in the podcast. But I'm very excited to talk to you because I reached out. A friend sent me an article called Canmore Man Hiked Every Trail in Banff National Park on a Quest to See the Elusive Bison Herd. It was on CTV News. And I was like, I have to talk to this guy. How do you feel about that?
I feel fortunate that I get to share my story in Banff, and I feel that it's a unique thing that happened. And I, after completing it, probably wouldn't recommend it. But it was quite the journey.
You were telling me before we hit record that you were like surprised by the coverage of this. Was it? Or you said it was your wife that got the word out about this. Were you just doing this for your own fun?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
I'm probably really detrimental to my business and my career. I have a very little social media presence. It's never been my thing. And I'm trying to learn. Someday I'll probably get better. And I had originally, and I think it was August of 2022, there was a fire in a part of Banff, in the heart of Banff, where bison were reintroduced. And I think the story should probably start with that, if it's all right, if I just back up just a moment, that in 2017, Banff National Park reintroduced bison, which were missing from the landscape for 125 years. And they did it in a unique way right in the middle of Banff. That's a hard place to get to. And they spent 5 years or so prior to their reintroduction burning specific areas to get back that natural cycle of fire that's supposed to be happening here, as we're all talking about as Canadians now. And there's only 3 genetically pure species of bison left on the planet, one of them being in Elk Island National Park here in Alberta. And they went, and I think it was 12 females and 4 males that were put in a paddock outside of the park so they kind of get used to the area. Made sure those 12 females were pregnant. There's never been a successful reintroduction of bison on the planet before, because they just get dropped in an area and they're like, where the hell am I? And they start moving. But the thinking is because the females are pregnant, when they give birth, they're not going to leave the calves behind. The males aren't going to leave one or too far from the females. And they did put in some fencing that tries to keep them in the park as well. And in 2017, they were put in shipping containers and helicoptered into the center of Banff, which is an amazing success story. And it's worked. They've stayed in that zone. The population has gotten healthy to the point where other mediations have to start taking place, which we can talk about. Mm-hmm. And they've been successful. And it's a hard place to get to in Banff. As Banff is 6,700 square kilometers, and I know you being in Ottawa, it's a little bit smaller than Algonquin Provincial Park, and Algonquin's a very big and special part of the country as well. So in August of 2022, there's a fire in a small portion of their range, and I was hoping that that fire was going to push them into a zone I'd never been before. So I bought a small fast pack, which I had never done before. I've been a runner for a long time, and I did a nearly 200 kilometer loop going through like 90% of what their range was, minus the chunk was on fire. And all I found was footprints and fur. And I have this big map of Banff, which is almost 8 feet tall and has all the trails on Banff. And over the years, I've slowly been marking off everywhere I've been. And I didn't get to see them, and I wasn't disappointed, but I really like this fast packing thing. So I was looking at the map, which sometimes my wife doesn't really like, that it's in our living room. And I did the marking of where I'd been. And I was like, it would be kind of neat if I just crossed off every part of Banff. And as a hiking guide, I redid as at work a lot of the zones I'd been before. And I just kept crossing off more and more places that I'd never been, trying to hit every maintained trail, every decommissioned trail, and every horse trail as well. So the project it snowballed from trying to see Banff once to being like, well, let's just cross off all of the trails in Banff, of which the park says there's 1,600 kilometers. I put a little closer to 2,000. And I think in total I did a little over 2,400 because you have to access from outside the park and in different zones and redoing specific zones as well.
I feel like ambitious is like an understatement for this, by the way. I do want to dive deeper into the bison, into you doing every single trail in Banff National Park. Like, I have so many questions for you because that's so cool. But like, it takes a special kind of person to want to do this, first of all. And I say that in the nicest way. I know that sounded maybe condescending a little bit.
No, I get it.
But you grew up on the East Coast. I'm assuming that's where your love of nature kind of began. I want to kind of bring it back a little bit and get to know you a little bit better. So where did your love of nature begin?
I grew up on the footsteps of Kejimkujik National Park in Nova Scotia. And it's a small park. It's only 92 square kilometers. However, it is quite remote as far as Nova Scotia standards are concerned. So I grew up in a canoeing family and doing a little bit of hiking and what I thought was mountain biking until I moved out west and realized what real mountain biking actually can be. And I went to school for outdoor recreation. When I was finished outdoor recreation, I had a family friend that was living out in the Banff area and suggested that I get some mountain experience on my resume. And I thought it was going to be for 8 months, not realizing how much it takes to learn about this place. And I'll never be finished learning. And I moved out here into the Banff area in 2005.
And you're in Canmore, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I live in Canmore.
I talk a lot about Canmore on this podcast because my sister lived there forever. I used to go there once or twice a year, especially in my my first mountain I ever climbed was Moose Mountain, and from there was it. Did you make that face because it's not really a mountain, or are you just like? No,
it's totally a mountain. It's just a little bit out of the way. Like you had to work to get there.
Yeah. I remember
out the front door. It's cool.
Well, I remember we did Moose because my sister had a friend who like hung out in the fire tower. It was like a fire watch. So I think that's why we did it. But I just remember there like was exposure and it was really hard. And that's when I fell in love with mountains. So Canmore and Banff and that area has a very special place to me. So I always love talking to people who live there. But here's the thing. You've worked as a guide, a hiking guide, canoe instructor, Nordic ski instructor. Tell me a little bit more about your business, kind of how you make money out there and like turning your passions into your profession.
Yeah, as you said, I'm a hiking guide with the Association of Canadian Mountain Guides. I'm a professional interpreter with the Interpretive Guides Association. I have a few friends that say I kind of live by death by association as I'm involved with so many different ones.
So say that again.
Death by association because I'm involved with so many different associations, whether it be Canadian, like a Nordic ski instructor, Paddle Canada with canoeing, or the Canadian Association of Ski Guides.
No one can say you're not qualified. So
I used to be a mountain bike instructor, but I guess, those who can't teach. So I never really got good at anything. I just got good enough that people who are really good would invite me because I wouldn't slow them down too much. I've been guiding full time since 2007. I started my own business maybe 4 years ago now. So I do hiking and trail running, a little bit of canoe instruction for different disciplines of canoeing, and cross-country skiing and snowshoeing in the wintertime here in Banff, Yoho, and Kootenay National Parks, which are in British Columbia but are adjacent to Banff, and also in the Alberta Provincial Park System, which is literally out the door of Canmore as well.
What kind of people do you have coming to you to be like, hey, Jeff, I want you to take me on an adventure safely?
They've all had experience in outdoor recreation in some component. And they're primarily, all of them are active and have a lot of experience in other mountain parks areas around the world. I think that 90% of my market is probably American. That seems to be the driving force of visitation here in our part of the world as well. And very passionate park people would be the driving force. And they're looking for something new. And this place can be a little bit unforgiving. So I think safety is a big component about why we get hired as guides. And as a member of the Interpretive Guides Association, like anybody can walk. Like what I think sets apart guides as far as like the hiking guide profession is being able to communicate a sense of place to those visitors. So when they go home, they still feel connected to it. So whether it be like wildlife or flora or like the mountain building processes that happened here to feel a bit more connected to the space.
Do you have, it might be too early to ask this, but do you have any favorite trails or areas that you always want to go back to or always want to show people?
Oh, yeah. Goodness.
Or you might not want to give it away. Like
no,
you might not want to.
I don't want to be a gatekeeper because I was not the first person here. You know, there's 13,000 years of humans roaming around this place, centuries before European arrival. But I think as far as hiking is concerned, Wangchemna Pass beyond Moraine Lake is a place that I think I want some of my ashes to go. I think Mount Victoria, which is a mountaineering route behind, which is the big backdrop of Lake Louise, which Lake Louise is actually where I met my wife. So that has a very special place to me. I think for your audience, if anybody's a serious backpacker, the North Fork of the Cascade is one of the most spectacular places I've ever backpacked on Earth. And if you're into some more remote things, my favorite 4 kilometers of trail in Banff National Park is a place called Pipestone Pass. The problem is it takes 40 kilometers to get there, and it's only about 4 kilometers of views. So you got to mean it if you want to get there. I don't know if it's your average place. Yeah, but North Fork of the Cascade is a backpacker, like just, I can't believe a place like this is accessible. And it is in the very heart of Banff. It's hard to get to, so you're going to run into people who are experienced like your audience would be.
You kind of already answered this, but what sparked the idea to hike every single trail in Banff National Park? So, you know, you're crossing all these off. You have this big, I just want to describe for people listening. You have this giant map. You said 8 by 10 feet map of Banff National Park behind you, and you're marking them all off. At one point in your head, were you like, maybe I should do all of them?
On that first backpacking trip, when I didn't see bison, it was in the back of my mind. And it wasn't until I plotted it out and I was like, you know, because most of the remote parts of Banff, there's no bridges. And it's navigation is trying. Like you'll see a trail on a map, and that doesn't mean there's a trail. It just means you can navigate it. Frequently, you'll be on the opposite side of drainages, major drainages, where the trail says you're supposed to be and where you actually end up. And you'll notice that where the trail is on the map, you can't navigate that. So there's a big component of being self-sufficient and trying to understand the terrain and that micro terrain management. And the whole reason why it started is I have a very understanding partner, and it was a bit of a goal. So with those opportunity to try it, you only have maybe August to mid-September where the rivers are low enough where you can get across them without having to swim too many of them, which isn't a lot of fun. So most of them, we were just like, anything that gets above my thigh, I get a little nervous when I'm by myself out there. So I like it to be certainly no higher than waist, if I can manage it.
Did she go with you on any of those trails?
Never, not once. No. This is not her thing. I tried to convince her to come with me on one that is really manageable because she's a big runner. Like she podiumed in their Grizzly Ultra last year. Like she's a big runner, and like we run a lot together. It's a big part of our lives in the summer, and the idea of this fast packing just is not her thing. Like she'll sleep in a tent, sure, but using a 30-liter pack to go 4 days and is not very appealing to her. So no, I did primarily all of the overnights by myself and most of the single day stay by myself, but she was with me on a few of the single day adventures.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, there must have been a few that were just like kind of easy out and backs or easy like circuits or something that you could have done in a few hours. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So there's a lot of it was single day. I try to loop in additional trails, and I did have my wife join me on those and some friends on some others, including the final trip. I had a contingent of my friends join me on that one, which was only like a 6 or 7K little chunk that I had left that we saved to kind of celebrate with some friends.
But for the most part, like all the big stuff was all by myself.
Logistically speaking, it sounds like a nightmare, to be fair. Like in terms of planning, it sounds like that probably took you, like how long did it take you? How many summers did you do it over?
3 summers. So
that's impressive. That's very impressive.
Again, like August and to mid-September are the only times that you can really try and squeeze those in, especially as like a guide that's working. So, and you have to, I'm maybe wasn't I had to wait for great weather windows as well. Like I don't want to go into some of these places and have just horrendous rain or thunder and lightning storms. I've been close enough, and I'm sure some of your audience have, that when a thunder and lightning storm comes in, it's just like, it's no fun. I don't play that game anymore. I won't do it. So yeah, weather windows and timings. And then like this fast packing thing, I'm trying to like average like 50K a day would be the distances I'm trying to do.
Can you describe fast packing? Because I kind of know what it is, but just for people who might not know.
Yeah, so it's basically backpacking with as little gear as you possibly can. And it gets outrageous when you dive into the bowels of the internet of what people are doing. It's really remarkable what you'll hear people able to accomplish. So you're trying to get your base weight of your pack to, which is everything you need minus your food, to around 10 pounds. And then the additional weight is just your food. So I was able to get my base weight down around that, sometimes a little bit more if I wanted to have some more creature comforts, like a stove. So like some of these people that are doing this fast packing stuff are nuts. Like a guy that tried to set the record on the Pacific Crest Trail didn't even take a sleeping bag or a sleeping pad. He would just take his trowel and dig a spot for his hip in the ground, so it had a bit of a depression. So some of these people are just like, I think, are crazy. So some people are talking about me being crazy. I'm like, you have no idea the gamut that this runs. But so I have a 30-liter pack, and it has like a running vest style shoulder straps. So bear spray and navigation is really close, and snacks and water, and these filters that you can now purchase are really efficient and super small. And we're very lucky in Banff. We have a lot of access to water. So as long as you do your plan ahead, you can figure out where your water sources to be, and trying to carry no more than a liter at a time, normally 500 mils, and just go. And a lot of the time, because these trails aren't maintained anymore, you're just swimming through alders for kilometers, sometimes literally moving your arms like you're doing a breaststroke, trying to get these branches that are 6-8 feet high out of your way as you're trying to cover rather large distances.
I have more questions about the hiking, but let's go back to the bison herd for a second. So you found out that they plant, like, I'm also imagine you're like a bison and they put you in this cargo, and you're like, where are you dropping? Like, what is happening? Like, imagine being a bison and they just like drop you in the middle of nowhere. Do you know where they came from?
Elk Island Park here in Alberta. Yeah, near Alberta or near Edmonton.
Okay, so it's not like they're coming from Asia. You know what I mean? Like they're
correct. It wasn't mountainous though that they weren't coming from. So it's still a very foreign environment. And I know, like what the anthropomorphosis, like putting the human thoughts in the animal mind. We have no idea what they're going through.
Super stressful, like probably really stressful.
Without a doubt. Yeah. But they were pregnant. They were going to give birth to their calf. So I want to give credit to like an absolutely amazing human who was the project lead on this, Karsten Hoyer, who he and his team, I've met one other, Sarah Fassina, who is like instrumental in, one, the idea of this, two, being able to coordinate it, and three, actually pulling it off. And it's been a huge success story for Banff and for, I would like to say, Canada as a way of seeing a large mammal reintroduction that's been successful. These things are huge. You know, they weigh almost 1,000 kilograms. Like, they are not small creatures. And they completely change the landscape from what we're used to in our Eurocentric sort of view of what this place is supposed to be. But it changes it for what it had been for eons prior to European arrival. So it's amazing what if you get a chance to get into these zones, how it has like positively affected the ecosystem, and had so much other life has been able to trickle down. I think the term that the park uses is a keystone species. So it has this umbrella effect of positivity that shadows over the entire place.
What I love about your story is there's this huge part of it that is like bison that they're dropping in and like reintroducing into the environment, which is incredible. And there's this other part of the story that you're hiking every trail in Banff National Park. Do you know if anyone's done this before? Like every trail thing?
No, I think they are kind of two different projects that I was just able to loop together. But the Banff one, I don't know. I'm certain somebody's been in every little valley.
Mhm.
And access point. As far as doing all the little connectors, like I had some foolish days. I had over 50K day to do 9K a trail I hadn't done before, because there's these little tiny connectors that might be a kilometer long. One of them was 400 meters that connected two different trails that I had never done before. So I was redoing these sections just to tick off this little tiny section of trail that I had never done before. So I assume someone's been in all these places. Has somebody done every little trail? Like, it's not the reason why I set out to do it. I wouldn't advise people to do it. There's some sections of Banff that you can probably you don't have to do that. That's a tree tunnel of monotony that you don't see anything, and you got to swim through elders for a couple kilometers. It wasn't worth it. But yeah, I'm not sure. I've spoken to some people that are long time that are like, definitely have been to a lot of the similar areas, but haven't been anybody that's crossed everything off yet.
Let's take this outside with Marianne Iveson. Let's Take This Outside now has a newsletter. Keep up to date with outdoor news, events, and great discount codes and deals from our partners. Sign up today at letstakethisoutside.ca.
If we both know people from mountain towns, you know that there's probably some guy or woman who did it like 100 years ago or something who you will never know about, right? Other than maybe stories. There's probably there's always these random stories of like these really incredible pioneers who've done some amazing things without any of the technologies that we have today.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. I'm positive that somebody has been in all these places before. And I hope so. And I hope other people get a chance to do it too. Like, I don't want to be a gatekeeper. I'm willing to share all the information. It was really hard to tie it all together in an efficient way. Like when you mentioned a few minutes ago about planning, when you look at the scope of the place and you're trying to cross it all off, it was like, I'm going to have to redo large sections of trail in order to do this small section of trail I've never done before, because there's no other reasonable way to access it. So it got a few people called me stubborn, and I think that might be fitting. But it was a unique project, and then I had great opportunity with timing, and my partner's super supportive, and wanted to celebrate in the success of it. So, and she's the reason why I'm talking to you now. So,
and your business is still going, which is great, despite you leaving for 2 months. Yeah, that's just great.
I try to do no more than 4 days at a time. So I leave my schedule a little light in the mid-August to mid-September to try and squeeze in like a trip or two. But yeah, my business is good. I have as much work as I want. I find my wife and I remind ourselves frequently how lucky we think we are. Like, in order to live in this part of the world, it's you have to make a lot of sacrifices, and it is not something we take for granted. So we try to celebrate it.
Were there any sketchy moments, or what was the hardest part of the journey for you?
Lightning storms aren't fun. I avoid those like the plague. Rivers above your waist are scary when they're fast moving and cold, and it's remote. You're a long ways away. So you I have a GPS texting device that I would send a note to my partner being like, I'm crossing this river now. I'll send a note when I get to the other side, because sometimes you're like, I'm not sure how this is going to go. And I don't like that. I don't want to put myself in those situations.
Or put her in that situation.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
And then I think just the navigation component gets really trying, because you're trying to make big distances, but you have to use your brain constantly to try to micromanage terrain. And then I did have a wildlife encounter, which is something like we all encounter out here in mountains in Western Canada. But there was one encounter that it was just very strange. It was a very upset grizzly bear, which 99% of the time it knew I was coming. I didn't startle it. It wasn't defensive, but it was just pissed off, and it made noises I've never heard a bear make before. And I've told this to people who know way more about bears than I do, and I've been studying them for nearly 20 years. And they're like, you can see this look of disbelief in their eyes. Like they don't make noises like that. So it was very, very odd, and it pushed me off the trail. It made sure to know that I knew that it was definitely in charge. So that was certainly an uncomfortable moment for me, but it lasted a couple minutes, and then like I'm in running shoes, so I'm out of there. Yeah.
On the flip side, you did mention a couple really cool places earlier, like hidden gems. But was there any moments where you're like, I can't believe this is Earth. I can't believe like I'm experiencing this. I can't believe that there's a place this beautiful.
I guess it sounds a little cheesy, but I think all of Banff is kind of like that. I do feel very, very fortunate to call this place home. I think it is one of the highlights of the continent, and the Elkhorn East is really, really remote and super beautiful, but that's where I bumped into the bison, which I can tell that story.
Yeah, that was my next question, actually.
Yeah. And then, so that one sticks in my mind. I think the Dormer is really special, and it's really hard to get to, and I would not advise it. But there's a place called Castlegar Meadows, which is just like, it's really hard to get to, but it's not, even advanced backpackers will some of them will be unsuccessful in trying to get there. So I would caution about people diving into that place. Go do the North Fork of the Cascade first. But yeah, there's some really unique parts of the world that are literally in a relatively small area. Banff's, again, 6,700 square kilometers, but it's part of that larger chain of parks, right? Jasper, Kootenay, and Yoho, which I spoke about. And then there's several provincial parks on the British Columbia side. Mount Robson, which is a spectacular part of the world as well. Humber, Assiniboine, and of course the Kananaskis area, the provincial parks here in Alberta. And I think those interconnected parks are about 27,000 square kilometers, which is over half the size of my home province. Like, this is a big part of the world that can spread out people if you make an effort.
So you go on this journey, and how long into the journey was it before you saw the bison, and did it live up to your expectations?
Well, it was on my last multi-day trip to finish all the trails in Banff. Yeah, it was very serendipitous. And I was on, I think it was day 3 of a 4-day trip. And I was descending this Elkhorn East, as it's known. There's Elkhorn East and West. I do not recommend West. West, you're just swimming through elders for kilometers. East, on the other hand, beautiful. And as I descended Elkhorn East into the Red Deer Valley, it's like this terraced, grassed slope. And the Panther Valley is below you, a remote part of Banff, which is the heart of where the bison introduction happened. And as I descended Elkhorn East, on the opposite side of the Panther, I see these like big, fluffy, cow-like things. Now, they're kilometers from me, right? Like, I can't make it out, but it's undeniable what it is. And as I descended this terrace slope, I recognized that there's a lot of them. Way more than I was expecting. And they're on both sides of the river. And as I continued to descend, I realized like they're below me by 100 meters. They're across from me to my right by 200 meters. And you don't want to get close to these things. And I don't want to be that guy that's getting close to wildlife. Anybody that lives in nature or who respects it doesn't want to be the person chasing them with your iPhone. So I literally just sat down on a rock. I didn't even take my pack off. I probably spent 45 minutes just watching. I don't think I took my phone out. Again, I'm not the social media guy, so I just wanted to be present, and I got a little emotional. The project came full circle. It was so special to see this creature that had been missing in the landscape that was removed for colonial reasons, which is a whole other horrible story. So it's been a big success story that I want to celebrate, and something was pushing the herd. They weren't moving fast, but they're all crossing. I was on the north side of the Panther River, descending Elkhorn East, and they were slowly moving on to the south side of the Panther. And after like 45 minutes of just sitting there, I was covered in ants because I wasn't paying attention, and they were all over me. So that's why I took my pack off, was to like take my shirt off and start wiping all these ants off of me. And I realized I got a lot of kilometers left, and I can't just hang out here all day. So I had my moment. I shed a tear or two, and I descended, and then I started making my way in the direction of travel I wanted to. And as I come to a couple hundred meters, and the bison are some of them are aware of my presence. They move quite quickly to get away from it, but there's a lot. And I see somebody on a horse. There's two horses. One's a pack horse, one's the saddle horse. And this person's like waving at me with both arms. And it's like, well, this is odd. I haven't seen a human in 3 days. And
Weird.
I immediately walk up to them, and it's one of these bison researchers and she's been involved in the project since its inception. And she's like, who are you? Oh, where did you come from? And I was like, I told her, and I remember her exact quote when I told her, because I started on the David Thompson. I did this really random, foolish line. And she's like, wow, you really like hiking. And then said, I hadn't seen a human in 3 days. And I was like, I haven't seen a human in 3 days either. And we turn out we know mutual people. We both know Paul Ziska and Meg Ward, who have been on members of your podcast, because this researcher lived in Banff. And she was there to count the bison herd. So she was like, do you mind if you hold the horses while I like use my binos and you can help me count? And I think I got to 89 bison. And she got to 119, including the calves. So when I say there's a lot of bison, there's a lot of bison. They've split into two herds now. It's been really successful. So I chatted to her for probably another half an hour. And now I'm really behind schedule. So we said our goodbyes. She took some photos of me. That's the photo I sent of you. It's not a great photo, but it's me in the heart of Banff in the Panther Valley with bison behind me. And if you look closely, there's probably like dried tears on the side of my face.
Aww.
And I motored out of there. So it was a really, really unique. And then I spent a half an hour with one of the original bison researchers. So I got a deep dive into what's happening from them as well.
You couldn't even like make that up. You know what I mean? The fact that it was the last multi-day trip for you. You know, you haven't seen a human in 3 days, and then you happen to come across one of the researchers behind this project. Like, how long was she there for? Like, it must have been a weird coincidence.
Super weird coincidence. And she was there to count how many were there and how many calves there were, which she didn't tell me the reason why. We found out later that they've been such a successful reintroduction. There's been no predation from predators on them yet, which we need to happen. But another part of the success story of the bison is that the herd has been successful enough is that some of the indigenous members of our Treaty 7 in the area, the different treaties that live here, can now take part in a bison hunt. So a harvesting of bison, because the population is healthy enough to sustain that.
Oh, wow.
So from my understanding, that was a big part of the reason why this researcher was there, was to get an idea of numbers, to make sure that the population could sustain it, so that our indigenous members of our community can get back to some of their main cultural practices that were happening here long before European arrival. So there was
how cool is that?
A neat part to see. Yeah. It's a big success story. This bison thing needs to be shared in Canada.
How did completing every trail change your perspective on Banff as a park and your connection to it? We kind of started out our conversation before I hit record about just the last couple of years in Banff and how things are going.
I think a lot of Canadians, and especially where I live, and anybody that's into outdoor recreation, probably hears some maybe not positive things about what's happening to Banff. And I don't want to take away from those when you talk about the landscape only has so much carrying capacity. That is without a doubt, before we start to have some negative consequences upon it. But this place is huge, and I don't want to deter active people from being able to come here and still find some solitude and a piece of paradise on your own, which is entirely doable. It's a hiking guide. Like, if you come out, we can go to places where, in a day, you might see 15 people, which, considering 4.2 million people came here last year, I think that's a success, and we should celebrate that. You can still get to see Banff or Alberta or British Columbia in its intact sort of in special way where there won't be a lot of other humans. So it changed my perspective about Banff, is that it's still wild. I don't want to sound too much like a hippie, but I do think there's still hope when we talk about wildlife and being able to coexist with it. I still, like, this has inspired me. I always thought it was possible, but now I've seen it with the way the bison changed the ecosystem in a positive way. The wildlife that I bumped into, the ecosystem is healthy, and I just think that if certain components of it, we might have to reduce visitation just because they're super popular. When I first moved out west, everyone talked about how this is a world-class destination. And well, now it is. And if you show up in Paris and you want to go to the Louvre that day, it's not going to happen. So if you don't plan ahead, so if you want to go to the popular areas, our wish came true. It became world class, and now you have to plan ahead. And if you're not going to plan ahead, then there's plenty other places to go. But if you want to do the classic Moraine Lake or Lake Louise, we've hit an inflection point, and we've got to manage the people effectively, which the park is trying to do. That's a conversation for the park to have. But I think there are plenty of places that you can still get to that are like, wow, like I parked my car and 3 hours later, like I'm by myself. This is spectacular.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this. Like, I know they're trying with like the shuttles at Moraine Lake, right? Like they've cut off like being able to drive up there during certain parts of the year, right?
Yeah, you can't drive there at all anymore.
So they're trying, right? They're trying, but it is funny that you say that, because there's all these like main points that come up when you Google or on Instagram. People are like, oh, look at this hidden gem, when it's not. It's Lake Louise. Like, you know what I mean? But what's interesting is that the park is massive, and there's so many cool places that people don't know about that you can visit, that you can have a spectacular time.
Yeah, agreed. And not just the Alberta side, and the British Columbia side as well. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm not such on Instagram, but maybe I should be, is when I look at it, I'm like, you were, there's not a lot of effort going into finding the location to then share it with the world. The hardest part that I see a lot in the social media is making sure there's no other humans that are inside your photo, that 10,000 other people besides you are taking. And that's okay. That's all right. If that's you want, that's fantastic. But I think it does a bit of a disservice to, if you are an active person, what you can accomplish here.
One of my favorite memories of the Rockies, I think it was in Glacier. There is this hike called Blue Pass. Have you heard of it or done it?
Yeah. Blue Pass, I've skied there. So that's in Rogers Pass, which is in the Columbia Mountains, the interior British Columbia.
Thank you for clarifying.
Different formation. No, it's all good. But it's, the Rogers Pass is another spectacular area, which really isn't that far, like 3.5 hours from Canmore, Banff.
Yeah, I remember not being that busy. And all I remember is my friends and I were hiking up it, and we couldn't go to the top because there was a bunch of snow, or like the top of the pass. But all I remember was like this rainbow crossing over the pass, and it was like so beautiful. And I just remember it not being that busy, being right. And maybe it's really busy now, I'm not sure. But yeah, there's so many places that we can go as humans. But yeah, there's also the double-edged sword on that too, right? And making sure that it's protected and safe. So.
Yeah, and Rogers Pass is spectacular, and Glacier National Park, on which you're speaking of, which the nearest towns would be Golden, British Columbia, or Revelstoke National Park. And I backcountry ski a lot there in the wintertime, and I just did a really cool mountaineering route there a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, it's more difficult to get to. It doesn't have a feeder market, right? Like, we have to remember Banff is close to 1.2 million people in Calgary and an international airport. So I think 80% of the people that visit Banff are international travelers. So if you go just a little bit further than what they're getting on their Instagram feeds, then and if you want to go a lot further and go over to Glacier Park, then of course you'll find some solitude and some peace. Yeah, Blue Pass is really special.
Do you have any guidance for two things? One, if people are visiting Banff National Park, or if there's, you mentioned a few parks earlier, like the Kootenays, any advice for people visiting, especially if they only get some time off in the summer, which is the craziest, busiest time? And secondly, if people want to find out more about the bison and the reintroduction into Banff National Park, like, where can people find some resources?
So for the first one, which was like, plan ahead. If you literally sit down, like my wife and I are planning to go ski in Chamonix this winter, in end of January into February, it requires a lot of planning. Banff doesn't require that much planning, but you got to make an effort. If you just follow your Instagram feed and then show up and try to do that, it's probably not going to work out because you haven't planned ahead. So make an effort, and don't be upset if you don't get your. Don't think of it as option 1, 2, or 3. Think of it as like A, B, and C, in the sense that, like, we'd like to do this, but we'll also like to do this and maybe do this, and then be able to juggle. And unfortunately, we still need a car to get around this part of the world. It's too big. You can do it with public transportation, but you're going to be really limited and you're going to be around some masses. So if you can rent a vehicle or you have friends that live out in this part of the world that can drive you around a little bit, it's easy to find some solitude. And the second part about finding information about bison, this is where a guide, I feel very fortunate because I live here, and every year in April, there's all the recent research that our park does, whether it be from the biologists that work for park or from the universities that partner with it. All that information gets released in a public forum, and that all information is available online as well. So your audience could look at the White Museum, WHYTE Museum, and they put all of their research updates online, or the Bow Valley Naturalists is another great resource, or you can listen to the podcasts about some keen or 22-year-old grad student that wants to save the world that's talking about whirling disease that's happening here with our fish. So there are those resources are great, and of course the park's website as well. If you can navigate it, you can find some good information on there.
Jeff, this is so cool. Thanks for taking time for me. And hopefully, like my boyfriend, he's never been in the mountains, so I'm hoping to bring him next summer, see my sister and her long-term partner, and show him the mountains. So maybe I could get you to guide us or something when we get out there.
Reach out. If timing doesn't work out, what I'll always do is, and I'll do this for any of my clients, is I send just a bullet point list. Hit this, or research this. And then I'll kind of put the ball in your court to kind of organize timeframes and things like that.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you so very much.
Thanks for listening. For more Let's Take This Outside, go to letstakethisoutside.ca.
Produced and distributed by the Sound Off Media Company.